Today is Monday, and I just want to say, all praise be to the Most High God. The Most High God comes first. Of course, restore the SnyderVerse is still in effect. Um, we're not going to stop for nothing. We're not going away for nothing. Let's talk a little bit about Superman's box office compared to Man of Steel. And we'll see how things go, right? So first of all, I just wanted to share some of these downloaded pictures. The Snyder Cut and Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut, are two cuts that the fans demanded and actually got what they wanted. And, Snyder and Richard Donner are two great directors who were removed. Their visions were removed from Superman. And they are the only two successful box office directors of Superman. Now, everybody thinks that James Gunn is going to be one of those guys. We're going to see, but I don't think so. Let's just go through the box office, though. Restore the SnyderVerse. We got t-shirts and so on for that. David Zaslav, this is what he had to say. President and Chief Executive Officer of Warner Brothers Discovery and one of the world's largest, most diverse media entertainment companies with market leadership across the programming genres, including premium television, blah, 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 blah. They're just giving his qualifications. Let's see what's going on here. The whole write-off tax laws doesn't make sense to me as a tax accountant. Pretty common misconception people have that everything is a tax write-off. No company in their right mind would go into endeavor for a taxable loss. I'm not exactly sure what this is about. Here's Ray Fisher, still my dude. Ray being on the right side of history. And yes, accountability is greater than entertainment. And yes, I love Zack Snyder. And yes, we still need accountability. This is Mariano Navarro. And in 2021, he shows here, he did a depiction of Wonder Woman killing Superman in the vision that she got as she was trying to get back to Themyscira. Restore the SnyderVerse. We're not going to stop. Y'all need to know that. This ain't going to ever end. Restore the SnyderVerse. Here was a designer, a business designer and artist, sorry. And he did a sort of comic book version of Zack Snyder's Justice League here. Today you see the Flash, you see Wonder Woman, you see Superman. That's Clark Kent with and without glasses. You got Batman, there's Bruce Wayne. You got Cyborg, Aquaman, Steppenwolf, and Darkseid. Really great. We have so many great artists among us, The first years of Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's really dope. Look at this artwork. It's really dope. Restore the SnyderVerse. This is AI combined with CG from Zack Snyder's Justice League. Experts agree that you can still restore the SnyderVerse. Restore the SnyderVerse. Restore the SnyderVerse t-shirts. Restore the SnyderVerse cap. And then you have the red pill, which is Zack Snyder's DCEU. You have James Gunn DCU. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it because, a lot of people have misconceptions out there. They think that, James Gunn is really doing things and they're off and running. So this morning, Box Office Mojo shows the amounts for the release of Superman 2025. And domestically, it raked in $122 million. Internationally, $95 million. Worldwide, therefore, a total global sum of $217 million. Do understand the pre-sales has something to do with the $122 million that you saw in the debut, as well as, That's how they did it, the pre-sale with the Amazon thing. That's how they get some extra money off of that. As you can see, internationally, it did not perform as well as it did domestically. Uh, in fact, internationally, that movie was shown pretty much quite a lot. The budget of this movie is supposedly 225. I think it's somewhere around 363, but nonetheless, whatever. And therefore, at a budget of 225, I'll tell you how much it has to make. Hold on a second, I'm gonna tell you. So just, giving you an estimate, 2.5 by 225 means this movie has to make $562.5 million to break even. Okay? It has to make that kind of money to break even. Will it do that? I don't know. But that's what they're saying. Now, actually, the number is more like between 225 and 363. Okay? So it's more like 294. You're doing the average of the both numbers. And then you multiply that by 2.5, you'll get 735 million. So it actually has to make about 735 million. And we know the budget was quite big because, and they're masking it because, the same thing with The Flash, because we saw the actual documents that point to that. Actually, I could find the actual document, but I'm not going to do that right now. So it's more or less like that. I think the Hollywood Reporter also did a piece on it. So anyway, it's grossed so far $217 million. And we all know that's the biggest amount of money that this movie will make at any given time. From here on in, the amounts are going to get smaller and smaller. The question is, does this movie have legs? Well, the kinds of negative reviews that we've been seeing, I don't know, man. I don't think so. I think James Gunn did some, but we'll see. I don't know. I think that it doesn't have legs, and I think it's not going to make that 500, the minimum 560 something million that I said before. All right. I don't think it's going to make 562 at all. So I see this movie flopping, but we'll see. I don't know. I think I've predicted, I've said over and over again, it's going to be a flop. Now here's this is a tremendously interesting point I'm about to make. All right, and this is the article here. Man of Steel opened with 128.8 million domestic. Even though it was 116 domestic, they did not include the Thursday night pre-sales. So just like how Superman 2025 had pre-sales, so Man of Steel also had pre-sales. So when they talk about the opening weekend for Man of Steel being 116.6 million, that's not true, because the way how they're comparing it to James Gunn's Superman 2025, they're including James Gunn's pre-sales. So given that, Man of Steel actually opened with 128.8 million domestic. And internationally, it made 112.8 million internationally, okay? Which is slightly lower than its 128.8 million. So its global total was 241.6 million, not adjusted for inflation. And why that's important is because you want to know how many tickets were sold. So that's why they adjust for inflation. When you adjust for inflation, you can find out how many tickets. All right. So that's the total that Man of Steel launched off in its debut with. Superman 2025 opened to 122 million domestic and 95 million internationally. Global total was 217 million, which is significantly less than Man of Steel, as you can see. So Man of Steel sold more tickets and made more money, and we're not even talking about adjusting for inflation. Okay, because if you adjust that for inflation, you get a considerably bigger number. It's closer to 300 million when you adjust for inflation. Remember, Man of Steel came out in 2013, so it's a very old movie. All right, so hands down, Man of Steel made more money than Superman 2025. I would argue that Man of Steel is a significantly better movie than Superman 2025 as well. All right, so now that that's cleared up, what does this mean? Well, I think the big hoorah was this opening weekend. Warner Bros. Hoped to make top end on this opening weekend. Probably have good word of mouth going on. Does this movie have legs? A lot of people believe it doesn't. I mean, we're going to go into some more detail and you'll see what I mean. Now, this was one of my posts, Restore the SnyderVerse. As you can see, this post was a huge post for me. 781 likes. I'm going to just break down what the post looks like. And I had 3 quotes, 150 reposts, and this drew a lot of attention. Okay, this was posted in June last month, the 24th of June. Now, the Gunns, they keep on coming to these posts for some reason. So Arachnid, he said, no, we don't want, he doesn't want the SnyderVerse to be restored. Couldn't care less. I said, no, we will restore it. You got 0 influence on here. And I showed that he don't even got no followers. And I guess somebody else came and said, yep. Some other guy came on here and said, you have no influence on here, buddy. You don't even have more than 1,000 followers. You're like averaging 5 to 10 likes per tweet. You're not a single original idea in your head ever. The SnyderVerse is dead, gone, stop whining. So obviously another troll was probably the same guy. He only has 46 followers. It's pretty funny. So that was interesting. He had Simba, but you see them, they're very aggressive. The Gunns are very aggressive. They come on every post, they try to invade, they try to dominate the conversation, they try, and you can see that because they're coming to posts that have nothing to do. This is my post. I posted this. This has nothing to do with James Gunn, and they make it about James Gunn. 1, 2. The second thing is they're aggressively coming at whoever. Now, clearly, these are bots, and I believe Casey Bloys is behind this. And I believe that these are shills, these are paid people paid to try and attack, supposedly counterattack people who, like us. And it really hasn't been working because we just stand our ground. They have no ground to stand on. Everything that they say is a bunch of crap. Look at this. This guy, he's he's trying to find shots in Zack Snyder's stuff. Zack Snyder's known for, excellent action, excellent cinematography. So to see them really stretching and reaching to try and find something with Henry Cavill was so funny to me. And then look at the account. Look at the account. So I expose them. And there's a lot of lies out there. So we'll get to that. But this is one of my bigger accounts, and it shows you just and again, I generally my posts get like 20, 30 likes, such like. But, This one blew up, and it showed a sentiment by, because I didn't tag anybody. It shows a sentiment by the major audience. And as Superman struggles to break even, which it will do, uh, it'll be interesting to see uh, how people respond in the next coming days. Because I already predicted that this movie would flop, and I know it. It's the same movie, you know. Actually, I have a post somewhere that covers that. Let's get to that post. Um, it's basically the same shit over and over and over again, you know. Let me see if I can find it. It's just garbage, and I'm tired of garbage, and I think all of you are tired of garbage. And hopefully, we can throw this garbage in the bin soon enough. We don't have to ever see it again. This, this was another post. I did quite well. It's a tremendous post. I think I covered that already. Anyways, trying to find one of my most recent ones. Let's see here. See if I can find it. Hold on 1 second. Let me see. No, can't find it for some reason. It just kind of sucks. I put out a post, but I can't find it right now. Or is this it? Yeah, here it is. I just want to show you how much this stuff sucks ass. Okay. These are, I remember people saying, Zack Snyder ruined DC. Okay. All right. But this actually does apply to James Gunn. He's really ruining DC. He's literally going in there and destroying DC. He's harming the characters. Anyways, Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 84, The Suicide Squad, all crap. Black Adam, less crap than everybody else, but still crap. Shazam, The Flash, Blue Beetle, and Aquaman, all crappy movies. And Superman joins the fray. I got to get back to the fray. He joins the fray of crappy movies. So I don't see, there's no difference between the end of Aquaman. Remember the end of Aquaman? Not the end of Aquaman, sorry. The end of The Flash. Remember Aquaman was drunk and falling headfirst into puddles of water? How did the end of Superman go? Wasn't Supergirl, didn't she show up drunk? Yeah? To pick up crypto? So, same thing. Same thing. Think about what I'm saying now. When has James Gunn ever portrayed Superman in a good light? Think about what I'm saying. In Peacemaker curses out the Justice League. In Peacemaker says Superman loves, he's attracted to poop. He has a thing for poop. In Superman, the first thing that happens to Superman, he gets slammed into the ground and he's getting beaten up all the time. He's getting cursed out. Right? Think about what I'm saying. Okay? You look at Blue Beetle. They throw jabs at Batman and Blue Beetle. Same thing they did in Peacemaker. James Gunn said his favorite Batman movie is Batman and Robin. He gets Shaquille O'Neal from Steel, which is all the flop movies you can talk about. He's always ranting and raving about them. He loves the flops. So you're telling me a guy who majors in flops and likes DC flops and likes mocking DC characters. He clearly likes mocking DC characters. The way he treated Superman yelling all the time. I haven't seen the movie. I've seen snippets of it, but I'm not interested in seeing the movie. I just don't. Spare me the headache of that. But from what I see of Superman, from what he was trying to do, it felt like Star-Lord all over again. For 5 years straight, we have been getting DC Universe trash. Why does WB believe doing the same thing will get a better result? Gunn has doubled down on desecrating DC heroes as previous flops have done. Justice League 2007, what did they do? They desecrated Wonder Woman. They made The Flash a tool for cheap humor. Joss Whedon desecrated Batman. Then he desecrated Superman by having the ugliest CGI I ever seen for Superman. It was just desecration after desecration. This is Marvel director. That's what he did. Trash Zack Snyder's work. Gunn got to destroy the DCEU. So any semblance of Zack Snyder's characters moving around, he got rid of them. And then what did he do next? He trashes Superman. Throughout the entire movie, he put on the ugliest suit you could ever get for Superman. He trashes Superman. He has Krypto as the hero of Superman's film. Think about it. And you're gonna go watch that? I heard somebody say, "Oh, it's like Free Palestine. You should go see it because of Free Palestine." I'm like, "Fuck you, you stupid ass bitch." Hell no. Why? Because as people said, you're not going to the root causes of the problem. James Gunn doesn't go that deep. He doesn't go to root causes of the problem. Superman just fighting the armor of Baravia, whatever the fuck it's called. But there's no why this conflict is happening. Superman just picks a side and starts fighting. That's how it's done. See, James Gunn doesn't bring solutions, ladies and gentlemen. All James Gunn does is introduce a lot of sadistic, very hedonistic, very evil things. When Jor-El could tell Superman, you need to conquer Earth and impregnate every single woman with your seed. What kind of bullshit is that? How does that help children? It's supposed to be a kid's movie, right? I believe that James Gunn's a pedophile. I believe that James Gunn, the way how he approaches things, the disgusting nature, the low nature in which he operates, this is not surprising. So they gave a lot of misinformation to you and other people out here, and I want to go into all of that. I want to go into all of that because I don't know about you, but I'm tired of this shit that I see on in terms of comic book movies. Right? There's nothing I'm excited for in terms of comic book movies except for Avatar. You know? And I think yeah, that's it. Everything else to me is trash. Even the Fantastic Four. Y'all are hyped up on the Fantastic Four. I'm not hyped up on the Fantastic Four. Not even hyped up on Smurfs. Because most of the stuff is trash. Trash. See? I even say here, it's trash. You can't make excuses for trash. You know what I'm saying? You can't make excuses for trash. When something is trash, it's trash. Shall I say, quoting Tyrone Magnus, it's a big old heap of trash. That's what it is. Stone Cold Steve Austin. You know what I'm saying? Rugster says, I grew up being called terrorist and feeling alienated for my background. And Cavill's version of Superman brought me so much comfort. This Superman was being called terrorist and told go home, and despite that gave up his life for humanity. If that isn't Superman, I don't know what is. That's powerful. Ettinger Mentum says spiritually Republican movie. This is another detractor. You know the Snyder haters out there because they're never consistent. They're never consistent. You know how long they've been doing the Ayn Rand bullshit, and Snyder's he's a right wing guy and Snyder's a left wing guy. It's just so crazy how these people would do all these somersaults to try and hate on a director. The industry hates Zack Snyder. And you see what the alternative to that is. You see this Superman movie, and these people don't realize they're exposing themselves to the world. We're seeing that you're decadent, you are low life, you're a disgusting scum of the earth that shouldn't be allowed to be here, but because of the grace of God, you're here. People like Zaslav, who's a Zionist, who has both American and Israeli citizenship. Sickos like that are what are in charge of Hollywood today. They'll let pedos like James Gunn do movies and be protected as much as they can. But nothing's going to stop this movie from flopping. It's going to flop. We already know that. They could pump money into cinemas and, do whatever. Obviously, internationally, the movie didn't do as well as domestically. But that's the high point. That's it. Zaza's trying to make it sound like, oh, we made it over the hill. No, you haven't made it over the hill yet. You just started. I want to see if the turnout for this movie, and if this movie has legs, first of all, and if the turnout for this movie even keeps going the way how it's going right now. The whole machine is behind trying to make this movie work. And I hope it gets exposed because we're seeing who the shills are, according to Harsh Critic. Shout out to Harsh Critics and shout out to, can't remember what their name is right now. It'll come to me. We're going to see who all the shills are out here. Because anybody who's not connected to Hollywood in sense of getting an incentive to say something good about this movie has been speaking the truth. Ultra biased Snyder fan says, this is so funny. Build relationships with influencers to create positive buzz and use the buzz to justify ignoring box office numbers. So, Jeff Goldstein, Warner Brothers president of distribution, on the performance of Superman. He says, what we hope to achieve with Superman was to regain the trust of DC fans, and they have, in fact, enthusiastically embraced our first venture into a new and exciting universe. But they obviously had influencers who they co-opted to say certain things. But even with all of that propaganda, it can't say this movie is shit. It's such a shitty movie. And we know this. I didn't have to, I don't even have to, I didn't have to see the movie. I know the movie was shit. Right? And we know James Gunn is a superficial kind of guy. He does not go into any depth with his stuff. What you see is what you see. And this movie was chopped into pieces. So Warner Brothers is thinking they won. You haven't won anything yet. This movie hasn't finished its course. Okay. Breaking news. James Gunn's Superman opens lower than Man of Steel did 12 years ago at domestic box office. Do you think this new reboot was a failure? Now, first of all, I wouldn't say, right, at this point in time, it's a failure. No, of course not, right? It's close to making its budget back. That's cool. However, having said all of that, a movie made 12 years ago has done better in terms of ticket sales, in terms of box office totals, in terms of box office domestic and international than this current movie. This is the new iteration of Superman. This is what they want to pitch their future with Superman as. Okay? It's the same shit that we have been getting for 5 years. They haven't done anything new. It's the same approach. It's the same shit. Okay? You don't keep doing, unless there is a God. I know there's a God. So you don't keep doing the same shit expecting a different outcome. I don't care if it's James Gunn that did a movie for you. I don't care who it is. If you keep on doing the same, clearly there's an agenda in that studio for a certain type of movie. And they want that certain type of movie so they can merge with Disney and they can have this, or sell it off to Disney and have this united thing. This is what's going on. Clearly, this is their goal, their mission, and they keep on going over and over and over about it. Now, currently, you cannot say that Superman's a failure because it hasn't finished its box office run or a significant portion of the box office run to know, okay, this is where it's going to top out, right? So we're still in the game. It's still early in the game. The movie, without the pre-sales, would have made $101 million domestically and $95 million otherwise. So in other words, it would have made $196 or what is it? Yes, $196 in all. But because of the pre-sales, which was I think 20 something million, they were able to bump it up to 217 million. I think it was what was it, 22 million, something like that. So that's why it is where it is. Now, having said that, we're going to see if it can carry, if it has any kind of legs. It needs to have legs because it has to make, I think it's 562 million, I think it is. 562 million. So it has to have legs. Yes. 563 million, 562.5 million. So it has to have legs to carry to that point. Because it's only begun at 217 million. That's not a lot. Okay. Now Man of Steel started at 240 something million. So, but Man of Steel, this is in a time where box office is different because you have to sell way more tickets to get the same amount of money. So with Man of Steel, you're looking at close to $300 million Man of Steel launched out at the box office with. And this movie started with 217. So they still have an uphill battle to keep going. They have to consistently bring people back to the cinema to watch this movie. And we'll see what will happen with that. Clearly, domestically, they're doing much better than they are doing internationally. And I think clearly, internationally, it begins at 95 million. That thing's going to drop rapidly internationally. I don't think they're going to get much more out of the international to squeeze it a little bit. But with respect to domestically, we'll see what they can do domestically. Because internationally, they're not doing well. Man of Steel sold 7 million more tickets compared to Superman. That is 14.2 million tickets 12 years ago. Despite Man of Steel having less ticket prices, Superman still couldn't surpass its opening day numbers. Man of Steel had stronger numbers from overseas compared to Superman. Yep. These are facts. Shout out to Restore the SnyderVerse. All right. Restore the SnyderVerse has never changed. He said, where is the business wisdom from us who you call toxic Russian Snyder bro butts? Are Zack Snyder, Ray Fisher, Wayne T. Carr et al. Back? Until then, I stand with Ray Fisher. A is greater than E. That is, accountability is greater than entertainment. Boycott WB, aka the shit fucks down the street. Restore the SnyderVerse or get the fuck out of here. As my boy Stedmos says, they're really trying to gaslight the internet and it's not working. So here's another thing. Restore the SnyderVerse. Pieces of shit made by and for them. Jeff Johns types, aka Disney Marvel Feige says zombies. Restore the SnyderVerse and the rest will follow. Real DC fan, how dare you like BVS? They see James Gunn as, like Yoda, Master Yoda. Multiverse of L, multiverse of losers. Did you know 1 out of 3 Snyder haters are just as stupid as the other 2? Ah, here's my boy Stedmos again. I have to commend Gunn with all WB manipulation of critics, all the butting likes, and all the burner accounts arguing on here every day. Yet theaters were still empty. Bravo, sir, on the greatest fumble in recent memory. Yep. Globally, internationally, there wasn't a lot of theaters that were, rushing to see this movie. A Gunn Gunnar Kern says, I've never seen a film blatantly have lies about itself in other movies as much as we're witnessing here, because this is what everything DCU said. James Gunn's Superman earned 123 million for its opening weekend domestically. It's actually 122 million, but hey, whatever. Highest opening weekend for any solo Superman movie ever. That's a lie, as we already know. Smashes Man of Steel record of 116.6 million, and that's a lie, as we all know. They're including the pre-sales in that number, so therefore you have to include the pre-sales for Man of Steel, which on Thursday they did a certain amount of money. Actually, I can show you here, Man of Steel. So for those of you who don't understand what we're talking about, here's the domestic weekend numbers. Now, Man of Steel on the weekend did rake in $116.6 million, but why it's here saying 128.6 or 128.7 million dollars is because when you look at domestic daily, the Thursday they raked in $12 million, the Friday 44 million, the Saturday 36 million, and the Sunday 36 million. So in all, it was 128.68. So you had to include the Thursday pre-sales, because what these dishonest motherfuckers did was they included the pre-sales for James Gunn's Superman movie, which started, I believe, with the Amazon thing. So that's why they say it's 123. It was 122 million, by the way. So that's why Gon Kuna Courage, he says, I never seen a film blatantly have lies about itself in other movies as much as we're witnessing here. Yep. Because as you can see here, this is Forbes back in June 16th, 2013. Updated June 27, 2013. Weekend box office. Man of Steel sourced to 128 million debut. So there it is. So that's a lie. And that was by Scott Mendelson, who doesn't really like Zack Snyder or his movies. So let's keep it going. Restore Snyder says, where's the business wisdom from us? Who do you call toxic Russian Snyder butts? Are Zack Snyder, Ray Fisher, Wayne Tinkar, et al. Back? Till then, I stand with Ray Fisher. Accountability is greater than entertainment. Boycott WB, aka the shit fucks down the street. Restore the SnyderVerse or get the fuck out of here. Yep, I agree. Now, this was back in April of 2023. James Gunn promises Superman Legacy will not be a comedy. Gunn lied point blank, and he's always been lying. He said this wouldn't be a comedy, but he wrote Superman like Star-Lord in a cape, cracking jokes while people die. That's not a bold approach. It's a brainless one. Super flop. And yeah, this movie, I believe, will flop. And if there's a God, it will flop. I'm saying, let me tell you why I say if it's a God, it will flop. If this movie somehow does well, the studio is going to move forward. This movie does not do well. And well, by well, I mean break even. The $562.5 million to break even. You need to make 563 then. If this movie does not break even, that would be justice, because it would show that you have to put in work. You have to be a gifted director. Superman's not just easy character that anybody can do, right? You have to keep the lore in order and etc. And what James Gunn did, to be honest with you, was a bunch of shit. It's not even Superman that he's giving. People are talking about the performances by David Cornsweet. That at certain points he was Superman-y. No, he wasn't. He was yelling a lot in the film. He was getting beaten up a lot in the film. And I don't really have a problem if Superman gets beaten up a lot in the film. My thing is, Gunn was having pleasure and seeing Superman get beaten up in the film. The CGI for Superman at certain points in time will look very clownish and buffoonish. And all of this, I haven't even seen the movie, and I can tell you all of this because I saw the trailers. And according to people who've seen the movie, if you've seen the trailers, you've seen all the high points of the movie. The trailers and the clips. And James Gunn's movie, it has no meat on the bones. It's just empty. So it's really sad to even have to speak about this but it is what we're doing. We're doing this because we have to. So James Gunn promises Superman Legacy will not be a cover. It's easier to take a character nobody knows and do whatever you want. Well, he did. He tried to do whatever he wanted with Superman. And the thing about it is, everything he was purporting, Superman doesn't kill. Superman doesn't kill and never kills. And then he said, he changes his tune. Oh, Superman kills when necessary. So now Superman kills when he's necessary? Because he killed in the movie. We know that. He killed his clone. He killed Ultraman. So all of a sudden, he can kill when it's necessary. You know what I mean? That's the kind of guy James Gunn is. James Gunn is a chameleon. He will try to shape-shift into whatever he needs to be to survive. He's a disgusting rat. He's a piece of shit. POS. He really is. So this guy is trying to cunt his way out of the trunks. He doesn't want to take any sort of responsibility or any accountability. And that's why I'm hoping that people would come to the realization of what is going on here. DC is not looking good in any kind of way, shape, or form right now. And that's because we have people in power and management in DC who don't care about DC. That's really the truth of it. That goes for Zaslav. That goes for, unfortunately, the head directors of Warner Brothers itself, Abdi and DeLuca, and James Gunn. They don't care. Josh Whedon was the same thing. He doesn't care about DC. All these jokes in Shazam, having Wonder Woman look like a black man, kind of like a monkey, seeing monkeys on typewriters in Superman, we begin to realize James Gunn had something to do with that. Anything that poked fun or defamed the credibility of these heroes, these Justice League heroes, James Gunn had something to do with that. He has some hate. He has a disdain for DC. And it makes sense. He was a Marvel director. And so for people to lap up his vitriol, not realizing he's making jokes about these characters and he's putting them in all kinds of compromising situations and disgusting situations, quite frankly, because he does not like DC. He's trying to tell you that. He's spitting in your face and you're saying, give me more, give me more. And I'm thinking, you're a dumb fucking asshole. Anybody who wants to go see this movie's got to be an asshole. You got to be an idiot. But there are idiots aplenty in this world. Zack Snyder's Man of Steel continues to outperform Warner Brothers Discovery latest reboot with an inflation-adjusted $177 million domestic opening weekend. Far surpasses the disappointing $123 million debut of James Gunn's Superman. If James Gunn's Superman is supposed to replace Henry Cavill's Superman, you would expect that it would make more money, right? You would expect that. Nope. It doesn't. Not by a long shot. And we don't even have to do inflation factor in, even though we know Man of Steel sold way more tickets than James Gunn's Superman movie. Restore the SnyderVerse gains steam as Superman opens below Snyder's legacy. Discovery's latest reboot with an inflation-adjusted 177 million domestic opening weekend far surpasses the disappointing 123 million debut of James Gunn's Superman 2025. The notable gap underscores yeah. The notable gap underscores Zack Snyder's lasting appeal and the declining attention of WB's effort to erase his DC Universe vision. Fans of the Restore the Snyderverse movement quickly highlight how Snyder's Superman launched a cinematic universe with cultural momentum. Gunn's DCU struggles to connect, fueling criticism of WB's divisive creative approach. I Boogu says, dude, no inflation needed. Man of Steel completely outperformed Superman in every way possible. James D. Lee says, then, okay, let's go back and get the 78 Superman and do it for inflation. And guess what? It obliterates both Snyder Man of Steel and this movie. Yeah, but the difference is James D. Lee. Richard Donner's dead. And so is Christopher Reeve. The point we are saying is why did you get rid of Zack Snyder and use James Gunn when you have a less profitable film? By miles. You can't say, well, why did you get rid of Richard Donner? Richard Donner's dead. Christopher Reeves is dead. They're not coming back. The studios tried to bring them back and it's failed in digital media. So I hope that James D. Lee understands this because we're not talking in a void. We're saying Zach's there. He's alive. Henry Cavill's there. He's alive. The cast and crew are still alive. So why wouldn't you restore the Snyderverse? This is what we're saying. Journeyman121 says restore the Snyderverse, fire James Gunn. Yeah, that's my sentiments exactly, brother. Man of Steel is an absolute masterpiece. Let the two Supermen fight it out. Let's get it on. Well, none of this is going to matter if Cavill becomes the next James Bond. They'll easily lock him in for 3 to 4 picture deal. Goodbye, Superman. Launch the cinematic universe with cultural momentum. Listen to yourself, you clown. Well, as you can see, this guy called X-Isle, who thinks he's so clever, doesn't realize that Man of Steel was profitable. The new Superman is garbage. Man of Steel is the best. This is the monkeys here typing in there. So I guess he's trying to say that he's responding. I just hope you realize that you've been a monkey for the last decade. Restore the Snyderverse. So does the actual 128 million without inflation? So does the actual 128 million without inflation? I'm not sure what he's trying to say, but yeah, it's without inflation. 2013 was during a peak superhero film boom when people would go and watch consistently. Now even a small bad word of mouth and people will wait for films to release on home viewing. I like both Man of Steel and the new Superman equally. Well, Putty, I'm sorry to break news to you, but all that bullshit you just told me doesn't mean anything. People don't like woke shit, like James Gunn's trying to do, and people don't like lies by a studio. trying to make them go see something that they don't want to see. So that's what's up. Superman wasn't in no peak time superhero film industry. Marvel was doing well. DC wasn't doing that great. You know, Illuminati says if things are inflated, that means people are less likely to buy it. So the fact that the new Superman is doing numbers at this day and age is actually impressive. I don't know what the fuck he's trying to say. I think he's trying to talk about inflation, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. They called the Snyder Cult a minority. And that's what they said. No one cares about Snyder's vision or Cavill's Superman these days. Cry more. If no one cared, you wouldn't come on here and say that. It's kind of common sense. Zola says, yeah, I live under a rock. Then you can't speak. If you live under a rock, you don't know what the reality is. Keep louder, friend, but SnyderVerse will never be back. It will be back. It end when you see Cavill Soups meets The Rock. No, that's not the SnyderVerse. So, sorry, buddy. That's also false. Type English in an organized sentence, please, unless you're actually 5 years old. Never mind, in a few years, nobody will ask to restore the Gunverse that will stand in the garbage of movie history. Yeah. You'll keep it moving, man. Oh, that was a community post. Okay. Hold on a second, people. People, we're all writing this song. We're all living these words together. Forever, there's no reason.
Flopped at the box office, okay? So the number. Well, y'all, Superman has officially flopped at the box office, okay? So the numbers have come out. This movie opened at 213 million worldwide, okay? With a budget of 225 million and a marketing budget between 1 to 300 or 200 million, sorry. This movie's budget overall is over 300 million, and Superman's one of the biggest fictional characters ever, and it only got 213 million opening weekend. Thor: Love and Thunder made over $300 million in the opening weekend that movie dropped with garbage reviews. And the reason why this movie is already done is because next week, and that drop-off is going to be at least 40 to 50% if they're lucky. This movie isn't good enough, like a Sinners or a Top Gun Maverick, to have legs. Plus, Fantastic Four dropping in 2 weeks, that's going to shift all the conversation. This movie is done. I told you guys months in advance that this movie was going to flop. How can you have a $300 million budget and one of the biggest superheroes ever and only get 213 million globally? And that's not the factor in. This is including the Amazon's Prime screenings in IMAX theaters that were in 70% of American theaters on Tuesday, the previews on Thursday, the opening weekend of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday worldwide, and you could only get 200 million. Really? And that's going to be a success. And the funny thing is, do you remember those people who were trying to say this movie was going to hit $1 billion? Are you insane? Superhero fatigue is real. The genre is dying because of garbage movies like Superman and other movies that have come out. You have to start acknowledging these things. All of the paid shows and the paid reviewers who go out there and they're not paid directly, but they get sponsorships and ads and memorabilia and merchandise, and they get interviews with cast and crew. So it gets them more views and more money, and same with the company. This is how this stuff is formulated. They tell you everything is awesome, everything is great and it's perfect, and then the numbers come out and you're like, well, why did nobody watch it? And the reason why is because the movie is not as good as they tell you it is. This movie may not even get to 500 or 600 million, which would be an absolute disaster for Warner Bros. Financially and a disaster overall for fans of DC just in general. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you for being on this ride that I told you guys was coming. Have a great day. Well, y'all.
Yep. Meanwhile, the movie that they say is crap, Jurassic World is at past 500 million already. You know, it is what it is. Still the best Superman movie of all time, clearly. Um, Flawless, epic. It's all meat. Make Zack Snyder's Justice League 2, restore the SnyderVerse. The time is now. I totally agree with you, brother. Bring back Zack Snyder ASP. Guns Jarrell. The media has been disabled in response to copyright by the copyright owner. I put this up so that you can see what Jarrell actually said about told Kal-El to conquer the earth and then fuck every single woman until most of them have kryptonium DNA and I don't give a shit. So here's more people asking for Zack Snyder's Justice League to work out. I want to play a little bit from South Cali Guy. Shout out to South Cali Guy 87. For those who care, here's a decent breakdown comparison between box office and Superman 25 Man of Steel. In short, upon opening weekend, Man of Steel opened to fewer countries than Superman 25 did opening weekend. Super 25 can barely keep up with Man of Steel. It actually doesn't keep up with Man of Steel. And the jokey part about this whole thing, without going into too much, is that it needs to pass 563 million to break even. Not even to make a profit, to break even. So you start off at 200 million. You got a ways to go. You got 300 million to cover. 363 million, almost 400 million dollars to cover. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't see it happening, but Restore the Snyder Cut says best and worst scenario for WB where Superman makes 550 million. Yeah. I mean, if it makes 550 million, it's close to breaking even. You could say it kind of almost did. For 50-50 split with theaters, 250 to 275 million. Production budget has been reported as being between 225 to 364 million. Marketing costs reportedly at approximately 225 million. Best case scenario, 175 million loss. Worst case scenario, 339 million loss. The thing about it is, I can't see Superman getting past $400 million, maybe $444 million. I think Aquaman 2 got that. So, and Aquaman 2 is probably a much better movie than this for many different reasons. So having that put into perspective, think about this. You have to try to somehow get to $563 billion. I don't think this is a $563 million movie. And time will prove me correct. By the way, shout out to Restore the Snyder Cut. Release the Snyder Cut. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time conversing with merit scholars in the Gunn fandom today. Very educational. I'm eternally grateful. Here are some of my favorite replies. Blah, 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 fuck ass, blah, fucking blah. Imagine saying 130 million is a flop when you make $20 an hour. When you account for inflation, yeah, nobody accounts that because it doesn't change anything. Yeah, it does. Inflation is purchasing power. So let's say 12 years ago, Man of Steel did whatever, 128 million, right? Debut domestically. That's you have to cater for inflation. So it's like today it would be like 177 million because the purchasing power, how many tickets could be bought, is important. That's why. So clearly, Man of Steel sold more tickets than Superman. The fact that you're willing to burn DC down in honor of Zack Snyder is just sad. It's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to burn DC down. Not at all. But we're not going to support a DC that produces a whole set of jokes and gags over content and substance. We're just not going to do that. Just block this guy and enjoy your hopeful life. Nigga, shut the fuck up. Is Snyder your sugar daddy or something? That's really fucking weird obsession. Someone who doesn't even know you breathe until you actually fucked him. So Yeah, these guys are very decrepit. They're very low lifey, and they behave. They throw a lot of ad hominems at people, and they think that somehow that's going to intimidate people. You're dealing with the Snyder fans, man. Snyder fans are some of the toughest, thick-skinned people you'll ever find. And if you think for some reason we're going to back down, fuck out of here. We've been successful at getting the Snyder Cut released, raising over $1 million for suicide prevention, aiding so many art projects, producing so many wonderful artists. That why do you think we are going to listen to you? You guys can yell at the top of the ceiling. David Zaslav could pump money into cinemas to try and get as much seats sold off. They can do every vile, low thing they possibly can say about Zack Snyder. It's not going to change what's going to happen. This movie's going to flop. And I know a lot of y'all still don't believe me. I'm like doubling down on that. Why? Because unless the movie has some sort of supernatural legs, it's not getting to 563 million like that. And this movie is not one of those. This movie, for anybody who's being honest with themselves, this is a one and done. If you watch this movie, you don't want to see it again. It makes Thor, Love and Thunder, and the Marvels seem like classics. It's awful. And the fact that people are saying that this is the Superman they want, the shills and all these so-called comic book fans, and this is so much like a comic book and all that. You're bullshitting yourself, and you're definitely bullshitting us. You're not being honest about anything. And let me just be straight with y'all. James Gunn has never stuck to the comics. He's never done anything. His Peacemaker is not like the comics Peacemaker, okay? That's just the starters, okay? His Star-Lord is not like Star-Lord, okay? Now you're saying, oh, that's the Silver Age Superman. But fucking James Gunn said he's not really doing, he's like in the past, but he's in the future at the same time. That's what James Gunn said. James Gunn's Superman is not Superman. Superman doesn't yell at people all the time and get flustered. Okay? Superman is super. That's why he's Superman. He's not an ordinary guy. So the fact that this Superman's getting his ass beat by everybody, not to say that that's necessarily something that's a big deal for me, but the fact is, I told you James Gunn was going to bring an underdog Superman. That's what he wants to do. He's trying to bring a trailer park trash Superman with trailer park trash parents that crack trailer park trash jokes, and it's all about comedy for him. So the Superman movie has to be a comedy. So Warner Brothers has ventured into new territory, not a very popular one, but they decided we're going to make Superman into a comedy, just like Batman and Robin. We make Batman into a comedy. Joss Whedon did it. Now James Gunn is doing it, and everybody knows what's going to happen. It's going to fucking flop. Everybody knows this. Anybody who is a audience of DC and been watching DC movies for the longest while knows this movie's going to flop. So no matter how much they yell high, yell low, they spin, they lie, the movie's fate is the same. It's not going to change. Okay? We already know this. This is crazy, man. They literally including ticket preview sales for the new Superman, but not for Man of Steel. What is this insane bias? They have to lie to make it look like it's doing well. Superman felt like being dropped into season 3, episode 17 of a TV show. There you go. Except it's not as good as the TV show. Even CW is better than it. These two scenes are really IQ tests that most people fail. I mean, I mean, how can you go from a father who sacrifices himself for his son to another father telling his son to go conquer Earth and fuck every single woman he sees? How do you go from that? How do you defend that shit? Y'all were up in arms about, oh, Jonathan, bad parenting, and what the fuck is Jarrell then? What the fuck is Jarrell? And Clark's parents, they're cracking jokes. They're jokesters. That's what they are. It's bullshit. They lie about everything, man. They lie about everything. This is going to be the talk of the town, but let's get real here. Superman sold around 33% fewer tickets than Man of Steel did during its opening weekend. And Man of Steel didn't have Tuesday showings and early Thursday showings. Superman is falling way below the performance of Man of Steel. Everybody and their mama knows this. Superman and Lewis on the CW was far superior to what Gunn did for Superman. 100%. I agree. So no one's going to talk about how Jurassic World Rebirth mugged Superman at the box office. Yeah. See, in the modern day, a movie does well when it gets about over 300 million or around 300 million. Okay? Man of Steel would have ended up with, its debut global total of about 300 million. All right? This movie, it began at, its global gross is about 17 million. So it did better than all of the DCU movies. I think, except for, I'm not too sure. Let me have a look at Aquaman here for a second. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Okay. Okay. It's a days on the weekend. Okay. So the weekend, Aquaman started off at 27 million. So it was like, it was in deep shit from the get go. But it didn't do so well domestically. It made 124 million domestically, but internationally it made 315.7 million, which is pretty good. It's pretty good. So more internationally, people liked Aquaman, of course, because James Wan has a big showing up in Asia, so I guess the Asians probably supported it. But yeah, it really pooped at the domestic level. Now, in with with Superman, domestically it's done okay. It's got off the ball, it's got out the gates okay. Um Better than Wonder Woman at least. But internationally it's not doing so great. Okay. So we'll see how that fares. But I just wanted to show you guys a comparison between Man of Steel and uh Superman. Now, you have to understand, Man of Steel grossed 6 million in its opening in China, finished with 63 million. And I want to show you something. Now, Superman is expected to earn 7 million in its debut weekend in the Middle Kingdom, which I believe is China. Man of Steel grossed 6 million in its opening in China and finished at 63 million for the territory. In today's dollars, that would be 8 million opening, so about 14% higher than Superman. Now, I'll show you something. So here's Superman here. This is the domestic. Oh, oh wow. They don't have for the other countries. So China, it hasn't been doing well in China. Okay. China and South Korea seem to be box office kryptonite for the writer, director, and DC Studios coach James Gunn's reboot of Superman by the numbers. So there you go with Superman. South Korea, meanwhile, looks like it's likely to finish at just half of Man of Steel's 9 million first weekend. Manufacturers are at play, and there's expected to be a slump in certain Asian markets, but that doesn't make it feel any better to see it actually come to fruition. International box office overall looks unlikely to top 100 million after all, with Superman falling to second place in several European markets. As Jurassic World Rebirth defines its own meh B grade from audience by a cinema score to land a solid second weekend hold and easily retain its summer movie season frontrunner status. If we'll see if Fantastic Four First Steps can excite audiences enough for a blockbuster opening that puts it in the running for Rebirth's summer crown expectation. So I think Rebirth might dominate the summer, as we expect. And maybe Fantastic Four when it comes out. We'll see. Now let me see. Today is the 14th, right? So let me see what's happening on the next weekend. I think Smurfs is supposed to come out. Oh, there was a Smurfs movie in 2000 and whatever. Yep, July 16th. So today is the 14th. Today is Monday. It's the 16th in Belgium. Where it's like, yeah. Release dates. So it's already came out in Brussels, and it's coming out July 18th, which is at the end of this week in the United States. So Smurfs is going to come out. Uh, it's going to come out. It's going to come out this weekend. Okay, so we'll see how Smurfs affects the box office, because I'm telling you right now, Smurfs, and then the next week will be Fantastic Four. I think that's it for the summer. So we'll see how Superman does. It's not on course to make $1 billion. That's not happening. What it's on course for, I think it's gonna flay out and it's gonna disappear, because Smurfs is gonna come in the theaters and people are gonna want to watch Smurfs. And if Smurfs is any good, Smurfs could just take off and really do something. So we'll see. Rihanna is the one in Smurfs. I don't know. It's not my thing. Uh, but if Smurfs takes off, then Superman's dead already. Fantastic Four is the other one. The presentation of Fantastic Four seems good, but I don't know. The marketing is pretty good, but we'll see. I'm not interested in it though. It looks like it's a big challenge though. Also, it looks like a serious movie actually, but we'll see. So yeah, I mean, basically, I think James Gunn Superman has this week to sort of flex, and then after this week, that's it. Because Smurfs comes in, and then after Smurfs is Fantastic Four, and those two might. I mean, if they don't dethrone Jurassic World Rebirth, Jurassic World Rebirth is a huge movie, so that's already taking away from the viewership of Superman, and so there's that. Let's see here. So next week's Smurfs, and then the following week is Fantastic Four. Okay, let's keep it back. Let's go back to here. So Brandon Ramirez, he breaks down the actual numbers. Domestic opening weekend without previews. Man of Steel, $160 million. Superman, $101 million. So it just made over $100 billion. I thought it was not going to make $100 million, but it just made over $100 million. With previews, Man of Steel is 128.9. Superman's 122 million. Let's be honest now. So Brian Ramirez sets the record straight, which is very good. Now I understand why they say they enjoy Superman. So what you Man of Steel instead of that shit. Josh, to be clear, Man of Steel made 128 million on its opening domestically. There's about to be a lot of spin in the next 72 hours, but I'll always tell it straight. It's 100% correct. Man of Steel made 128.7 million in 4 days. This is a lie. Y'all are desperate. Man of Steel remains the highest grossing Superman film. Yep, there it is. So it's that kind of nonsense that you have to deal with. But we've seen this so many times before. That's why I say this is the same playbook going on and on and on. Did I just see this right? Who is spreading this garbage now? They're saying that this new joke of a movie is better than Man of Steel because Snyder was Cavill's kryptonite. What garbage and lies. I'm so sick and tired of people saying it's a better movie than Man of Steel. James Gunn Superman Rotten Tomatoes score proves Henry Cavill's kryptonite was Zack Snyder. Psst. Every time they refer to Zack Snyder, we know why. Nobody gives a fuck about the critics. They're paid shills. They don't know good from bad. They're just paid to say stuff. The people you have to watch out is the fans. The people, the audience that actually went to see the movie and what they say. That's better than listening to a stupid critic, to be honest with you. Captain America 4, 532K disappointing versus Superman, 515K modest. I'm guessing, what are you saying? I'm not sure what that means. I don't know what they're talking about, but let's have a look here. Mr. Luis Fernando says, Superman also kicked off its rollout in Europe. In Italy, box office brings the film starring David Cornswet opening grossed a modest 550K on Wednesday opening day versus Captain America 531K and Thunderbolts 639K. All of those are flops, by the way. But beating The Flash's 414K and Black Adam's 260K as three biggest for DC post-COVID, only under Joker 2's 965K and Batman 761 opening days. Soup sold 57K tickets on opening day in Italy. After a soft reboot in Korea, Captain America Brave New World also disappointed in Italy's box office, where Captain America 4 scored one of MCU's lowest quality opening day post-COVID, see below, grossing 532K on Wednesday opening day, with just 67 admissions on day one. It outperformed Superman, and it was a flop. Y'all do know that, right? Captain America Brave New World was a flop, right? Y'all know this, right? I hope so. Just for the record. Fuck. There you go. This is what it grossed in the end. Budget was 180 million. It grossed in 415.1 million. And let me show you why it's a flop, because a lot of people would not understand that. So let me show you. So supposedly its budget was 180 million. We think it's more, but anyway. You multiply this by 2.5, you get 450 million. It made 415.1 million. So it's short of breaking even by 35 million, 34.9 million. Okay. So it was a flop. So it started better than Superman. Another flop was Thunderbirds. Oh, Thunderbolts, sorry, my bad. Thunderbolts also flopped. It also had 180 million, and its box office was 382 million. I'll show you something. So now let's go to Box Office Mojo. Thunderbolts. Okay. And so you're going to do Box Office Mojo. Captain America: Brave New World. All right. So let's see. Domestically, it ended at $200 million or $201 million. Depends on what you want. Internationally, 214 million. So internationally, it made more than domestically. Now I want to show you something. The opening weekend. Look what it opened with. It opened with 88 or $89 million. But this is all the same weekend. It opened with 188 or $189 million. That's domestically. Okay. Superman opened with 123 million. So this is way below what Captain America, Brave New World made. I want to show you something else. The Thunderbolts, which is also another flop. Floppity flop. And an opening weekend, domestic weekend. This is what it made. Let's see, cumulatively. Right. It made 74 million opening weekend, but the second, yeah, 74 million. So that started off a little less. So the way how it's going right now, but I'm not saying it's going to go this way, is it looks like the outcome's going to be 400 and something million. Like I said before, it's probably going to do like Aquaman numbers. That's if everything goes to plan. Okay? Because that's if everything goes to plan. See here, I'm going to show you something. So this was the first weekend, right? It made $188 million, which is good money. But it had a 68.3% drop. That's a tremendous drop it had in the second week. Captain America thing. So it only made 100. Wait a minute, hold on a second. Let me just make sure. So, yeah. So this, the weekend, the second weekend, it had a tremendous drop off. The question is, here's the question, and this is a question we all have to bear in mind. Will this have a significant drop off in the second week? Because if Superman has a significant drop off in the second week, it doesn't even have to have, to be honest with you, I'll show you something. It doesn't even have to have a significant drop off. Let me show you something. Yeah. Fuck am I doing? Right. So its weekend is 122 million. Let's say it has a mild drop off. Let's say it has a 40% drop off, right? Which means this is now 60% of that. Okay, I'm gonna show you something. All right, so it drops off and it collects 73 million. Right? Let's say it collects 73 million. Now I'm pretty sure that's as tame a drop as you can get, right? That carries up the domestic to 190 something million, right? It's close to 200 million. Now, if it has a tremendous drop off, let's say it has a 60% drop off. That's not tremendous, but you know, we'll see. If it has legs, in other words, it'll have a 40% drop off. If it doesn't have legs, it's gonna have like a 60% drop off or higher. Let's say it does that. Then this is what we're looking at. We're looking at 48 million added on in the following week domestically. Okay. If it has a disastrous drop off where something like what happens with Captain America, a Brave New World happens, then this is what it makes the second weekend. And you can say bye-bye. I believe that we're going to tend towards the latter because I don't think there's enough people who are going to like this Superman movie. Or carry their children. Some of them are not going to carry their children to see this because it's not really a children movie. So I can say quite safely this movie's not going to get anywhere. I don't even think it's going to make 200 million domestically. Because remember, Brave New World actually made 200 million domestically. I don't think that Superman and Captain America is like a similar type to Superman, right? Marvel has their Superman. It's Captain America, right? Even though he doesn't have superpowers like that. So he's a staple of Marvel, in other words. Uh, and that fell very drastically. So I can see very clearly. I don't think Superman's going to do as well as Captain America: Brave New World. That's my honest opinion. But we are yet to see. It obviously opened much bigger than Superman. Um, it opened at 189, 188, 189 million. Okay. In fact, let's actually see. Okay, Captain America: Brave New World had a strong box office debut, earning 100 million domestically in its opening weekend. It also achieved a global opening of 192.4 million, despite mixed reviews and cinema score B minus and so on. Now I don't know if that's true because here's the thing I'm seeing here. Maybe I'm misreading the thing. That's a possibility. This is his debut. This is his debut opening. And what it's telling me on the weekend is there's this. So I don't know. You know what? I think I probably read it wrong. So from February 4th, sorry, my bad. From February 14th to February 16th, okay, it was a President's Day weekend. So from February 14th to February 17th, it raked in $100 million. So actually, it debuted with $100 million. My bad. Okay. Now, okay, so actually, Superman did a little bit better than Captain America: Brave New World. It made 122 million, which is a little bit more. So that's okay. So therefore, it might do around those numbers or a little bit better. Maybe we don't know because, as I said before, in the second weekend it was a big drop. Captain America: Brave New World. The question is, will Superman have a big drop in its second weekend? That's the question. Um, So my bad. Captain America: Brave New World actually started off with less by 22 million than Superman. So that's I made a mistake there. Superman started with 122 million. Okay, uh, because of the pre-sales, I guess. But again, very good for them. Now the question is, does this thing have legs? And that's what we're going to find out very, very quickly. Does it have legs? I will know that before the end of the week. Um, I believe this is The Flash. The Flash made $25.9 million in China. I do not know the figures for Superman in China yet, but apparently it is also a problem. Chilling Mood says WB is desperate for a positive headline. They're saying that Superman has beaten Man of Steel domestic opening weekend, but they're counting previews for Superman movie and not for Man of Steel. Man of Steel had 128.9 million, almost 129 million, including previews. Superman movie had 122 million, not 123 million. It's been adjusted. How Zack Snyder introduced female superheroes and how James Gunn did. Yep. 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 James Gunn has no respect for the characters. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. Do you want a Superman sequel? No, we want Zack Snyder's Justice League sequel. That's Leonidas. How the hell Jurassic World Rebirth is selling more tickets on the second Saturday than Superman on his first Saturday? Film review, tickets sold on BME 6 p.m. and so on. F1 the movie sold most of the tickets. Jurassic World Rebirth, oh my bad. Jurassic World Rebirth sold the most tickets. Sorry, my bad. Yep. Yep. Yeah, Superman's not that hot, and they're just overhyping it, but it's understandable. Okay, now some serious stuff we need to talk about. Hey, by the way, a couple other really interesting things. I saw a Ben Affleck BVS Batman in the armored suit show up for actually this might be it here.
Spread the word, guys.
Lethal Geeks, that's the guys I was talking about. So they're still pushing Restore the SnyderVerse. Plus there was a guy that dressed up in a Batman suit. It was really cool. The first thing that comes to mind when you see the Superman, a murderer. He's the Snyder Cut. Yeah. Gotta love you, brother. Mass murder. Serial killer. That's it. Henry Cavill's Superman. Concerning the only people he killed were clones of himself, the vultures or whatever the task force was. Superman has a lower kill count than his Henry Cavill counterpart. Not really. Henry Cavill Superman only killed 2 people in the entire movie. That was Lex Luthor. I'm sorry, that was General Zod and Doomsday. In his 3 movies, actually, including Zack Snyder's Justice League. That, like you just said, Superman killed the clone of himself, and he also killed that army of people. Wiped them all out. So yeah, the Gunns really don't have a response. They try to respond, but they really don't respond. Okay, I just have to say this. Nobody is free until we all are free. Free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan, free Somalia, free Libya, free Syria, free Lebanon, free Palestine. Thank you, Zack Snyder. We don't say that enough. For this man making characters in tights to be transformed into relatable, reality-based people that then got idolized into these epic icons of our culture. Make DC Comics great again. So this guy still pulls back up something from 12 years ago and says it's the dumbest scene in movie history. And Real News with Carlos Digi says, bro didn't watch 2 hours of dumb just yesterday. Well,
Y'all, spoilers for James Gunn's Superman, but this part of the movie I thought was just absolutely dumb. So as we all know, there's multiple battles in Metropolis. The one where the world, splits in half, and obviously the big kaiju fight with the Justice Gang and Superman. But the question is, why is everyone standing around taking TikToks and making tweets while we're actually seeing people get destroyed? There's hundreds of people in these buildings. We see glimpses of people in these buildings where in the daytime it's probably a work day. That's why there's so many cars and people around the city. And as all this destruction is happening, mayhem, they've got their phones out. Hey man, get to this, dude. Let's take a selfie. What are we doing? It's a stupid setup to have Superman save these idiot people. You have kids walking around unchaperoned, people watching from buildings and looking at the news as a kaiju standing behind them destroying the city. It is embarrassing. And I may have to make a series about the plot points in this movie that make no sense, because another issue is when Superman is revealed to be the guy, sent here to conquer Earth and destroy the Earth, why in the world would people still be standing around him, taking videos of him and trying to get interviews and TikTok vids? That makes no sense. If you saw a news report and the guy who's 2 feet away from you is revealed to want to kill you, would you be trying to take a selfie with him? Ask yourself that question. It is embarrassing how stupid this movie is written. Like in Infinity War, when Thanos sent the Dark Order to New York and we saw Strange and Tony and Peter fighting against them, were people trying to take selfies with them in the Dark Order during all the demolition, or were they running away? Come on. And obviously this brings up the question, all the hundreds of people who are in all these buildings that are toppling over each other and falling down, and we don't see Superman saving any of these people, so they probably all died, but no one says anything. But in Man of Steel, when people are dying in buildings, it's a big problem. That's another biased double standard we'll talk about another time. But the writing in this movie and the way that he writes civilians, James Gunn does, is just stupid. Y'all
things and put things on an even-ish playing field if we're talking about today's dollars versus the dollars of the past. When we look at just Superman movies, and I'm not including Justice League on this list, these are the ones that just have Superman or some variant thereof in the title. Of course, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice still has the top opening weekend with $166 million. But in second place, I have Man of Steel at $128.6 million. And some people, especially people that look at these numbers, may be saying, well, wait a minute, I know what the opening weekend for Man of Steel was. It was around $116 million. But as I was compiling this list, I noticed that in the record books, the opening weekend for Man of Steel includes, as we often see, the Friday through Sunday numbers, but there were preview shows. It was a Walmart exclusive preview series that took place on Thursday. You could buy tickets at Walmart and go see the movie, and that brought in about $12 million. Now, because Man of Steel came out about 10 years ago, those were usually counted separately. But looking at the numbers and the fact that Superman, the one that just came out, had its own Amazon Prime exclusive screenings that were earlier in the week and that were folded into the opening weekend numbers, I decided that for my purposes, I am going to fold those Walmart preview numbers into Man of Steel's opening weekend, because it's not like the movie opened in limited release or it had an official opening date of Thursday in a smaller number of theaters.
So he's doing the same thing we are all doing. Shout out to Dan on that. Dan Morrell. Let's go.
And then open wide on Friday. Man of Steel officially opened on Friday, and under today's norms and the way that things work now, even if you have preview screenings earlier in the week, those are now folded into the opening weekend. So I've decided I'm going to start doing that with Man of Steel. If you don't like that, then just in your head imagine that that number is about $116 million. But with those Walmart previews included, Man of Steel comes in second place at $128.6 million, so just ahead of Superman, which has an estimate of $122 million. Then we have 2006's Superman Returns, which was a Wednesday opening. It made $52.5 million in its first Friday through Sunday stretch, followed by Superman 2 back in 1981, Superman 3 back in 1983, Superman the movie in 1978, and then the franchise's low point, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, back in 1987, which only opened to $5.6 million. When you adjust these numbers for inflation, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice comes in at $220 million. Man of Steel comes in with an adjusted total, inclusive of all previews, at $184.5 million. Superman comes in third at $122 million. Superman Returns comes in at $85.9 million. But look at these other Superman movies. Back in 1981, for Superman 2 to open up to $49.8 million, given how distribution worked back then, is pretty incredible. Superman 3 comes in with an opening of $43 million adjusted for inflation. Then we have Superman the movie back in 1978 at $36.8 million adjusted on its opening weekend. And Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. This really just shows you how big the gulf was with the Christopher Reeve movies. Even if you were to adjust for inflation, it's still open to just $16 million back in 1987. Superman also put up one of the best opening weekends for a movie based on a DC comic. Batman v Superman has the best opening on the record so far, followed by The Dark Knight Rises and The Dark Knight. Then we have The Batman from 2022 and Suicide Squad from 2016. Man of Steel comes in sixth place, followed by Superman, then Wonder Woman, Joker, and Justice League. And if you adjust these totals for inflation, it's the same movies, but in a bit of a different order. The Dark Knight has the best opening weekend for a DC movie, adjusted for inflation at $243.7 million. The Dark Knight Rises was right behind it, though, $233.1 million back in 2012. Then we have Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. Man of Steel has the fourth best opening for a DC film, followed by Suicide Squad, which has $177.6 million adjusted for inflation. The Batman comes in at number 6. Wonder Woman comes in ahead of Superman, adjusted for inflation, at $133.8 million. Then we have Superman in 8th place, just ahead of the opening numbers for Justice League back in 2017. But Justice League was a more expensive film than Superman by $75 to $100 million at least. So again, you can't just compare two movies without any of that background information. And then Joker rounds out the top 10 with $119 million adjusted for inflation.
Bueno, me pasa un poco como a Master, que hay tantos...
For James Gunn's Superman, but this part of the movie,
we saw a very interesting.
Any day of the week, Henry Cavill Superman, Henry Cavill. Yep. So James Gunn just said that Superman kills if it saves lives. Are we done debating Zod now? The funny thing about it is, he was saying that Superman doesn't kill at all. He never kills under no circumstances.
To play the outward appearance of the character as a quality results in a very stiff portrayal. In other words, if you end up saying, he's a hero, I will therefore look heroic, you're dead. What you have to do, think about it in emotional terms. What is it to be an orphan? What is it to be different? What is it to be an alien? What is it to have lost one home? And the result, when you get in, plug into all that stuff, is a tremendous need and generosity for other people. So that is the organic source of his heroic action. So now you're acting something you can understand rather than just, oh, to play the outward appearance of the character as a quality.
And no bots were involved. The Academy debunked 3 rumors, and the Gonzalez report was proven to be fabricated and stood by their merits. The research was for Tesla fan bots. The claims that a team of his scoured data surrounding the Snyder fan votes were entirely falsified. Yet anyone... So, Screen Geek says this is one of the dumbest scenes in movie history, right? And yet, every time someone tries to explain why this is the dumbest, the best they can come up with is some variant of, I think they should have done it differently, which doesn't mean anything. There's no intellectual value in that. So, financially, we all know the SnyderVerse did well. And
I watched Superman yesterday. You want to know my thoughts? And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a movie expert, but I won't cap. Do not raise your expectations, my nigga. I think that was my problem. I think I seen the reviews on the movie. Had a 10 out of 10 mindset, and went in there wanting a 10 out of 10 movie, bro. I ain't gonna lie. I think that's what it is, bro. I think that's what it was, gang. Now God is good as dead.
That's beautiful. The government gave me
You're not the real heroes. I'm the real hero. I'm the real hero. This is my world.
maybe the night them will tears might let me know all the stars are blue. All the stars are blue. All the stars are blue. Maybe the night them will tears might let me know.
You're not.
I watched Superman yesterday. You want to know my thoughts?
Damn, someone was bored watching the new Superman movie, so put that Man of Steel on his phone. Yeah, man. So self-sacrifice and altruism is dumb. Who are the objectivists and Randians again? Eternity in Gaming says, genuinely don't understand why Clark didn't break his father's trust and just reveal his identity to the world. Like, what's the worst that could happen? I don't know. Maybe someone should make some stories around that idea. Obviously, in Flashpoint Paradox, Superman is tested on and stuff, and the reason is because they find out who he is. I mean, this is not rocket science. Then BVS shows when Superman reveals himself to the world, he gets killed. I mean, come on. Eternity in Gaming, man. Anyways, people, that's what I got for you guys. Now, some of you are going to say, well, you didn't talk about Free Palestine. I'm going to talk about Free Palestine, but I'm going to do it as a very, 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 very short segment. And the reason being because we're still in the process of resisting this evil Zionist regime. So there are updates, and they're not good, okay? Recently, Israel again killed a whole set of Palestinians, again attacked schools, again attacked refugee camps. Over and over, it's the same rubbish, okay? So I listened to one lady being traumatized because she's like, nobody's doing anything to stop this. And I could feel your hopelessness. But again, we just have to continue to push for free Palestine. I've shared a lot of information on Twitter, particularly about free Palestine. I saw somebody in my country, Carl Pernahan, who's a independent journalist, and he's talking about the fact that you do nothing about Palestine, you say nothing about Palestine, means you're complicit in it, because this is a crime happening in front of everybody, in front of the whole wide world. And he's 100% correct. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I see the love you guys are pouring into here with the likes. Shout out to each and every one of you. God, seeing kids getting sniped, seeing doctors getting killed. Of course, I'm still looking forward to the release of several doctors. One of them who was prominent head of the hospital that was held hostage, one of the major Al-Shifa hospital. We have to keep on striking. We have to keep on. But like I said before, different people talking about different levels. I already spoke about this. You need to stop working, start striking. The American people, you are the only ones who can shut down these people from doing what they're doing. You have to stop the transshipment of arms. You have to stop Palestinian action, whether they call you terrorists or not. You have to keep on going. You have to keep on going. Let nothing deter you. Just like how we talk about restore the SnyderVerse, nothing deters us. Similarly, nothing must deter you from keeping on resisting. All right, I got what I have to say there. It's up to you guys. Wicked evil settler lady who was talking about killing Palestinians openly. Her husband was killed. The Left Bible says this is why they're attacking me. Simply can't be bought. Billionaires should not own social media platforms. Billionaires should not run our newspapers. Billionaires should not control our politics. Jeremy Corbyn. Also, on top of that, Jeremy is, of course, a staunch supporter of Free Palestine. Mohammed Safar says, you cannot build a holy land for your children on the mass graves of our children. I almost feel like General Zod when he said to Superman, he said, a foundation has to be built on something, and you see all the bones of the dead people, and it's like, fucking, this is really happening. Like, this, literally, they're wicked, evil people who are trying to make this happen. You know, General Zod is alive and well, you know what I mean? So that's what I got for you guys. I am Christ, I am disciple. Much love to you guys. Smash that like button if you like what you